sleep. So again, we're covering how we see the world, how we perceive the world. What do we put in our body that changes the perception of the world, and how does sleep affect our body? It's kind of I think, is it the largest unit? Close there. Looking at about the same, like 10 days. I'm going to preface this right now. Day 1, it's mostly going to be new topics. Day 2 is going to be a lab. You should have a lab tomorrow. Okay? And if not tomorrow, it will be Wednesday for sure. But day 1, I kind of have to just talk to people. Okay? I've tried planning activities for this stuff, and there really isn't much of anything. All right? So, without further ado, click right. Take your time on this one. It's a pretty big question. Identify what you believe the most important sense for us to have as humans is. Why is what you chose more important than the other senses? 3, 2, 1, go. Which one of your 5 senses is the most important? 6th sense? 6th sense? 6th sense? What do you think? Okay, folks. Who wants to get us started here? What's the most important sense and why? Connor.
Well, I said Psych. Just, I mean, like, if you didn't have it, it's kind of hard to do, like, everyday tasks without, like, assistance. And, I mean, like, let's say if you were deaf, I mean, there, like, you can, like, there's sign language and other things that you can, like, use to, like, help with that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, for Psych, there's not much you can really do. Besides, like, you're changing the whole thing, you know?
You would. Yeah.
I said touch because for every other thing there's an alternate method that you can use to really like. I said touch.
Never thought about that.
That was deep.
Well, there is and somebody can actually do this on their phone. There is a disorder, I can't remember it, that you can't feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't feel pain specifically.
People like put their
Yeah,
hand
so
on burners and
They can't feel it.
yeah.
There's, like, a young girl that had it where, like, she, like, broke her legs and just kept walking on.
If you have this disorder, you actually die younger usually because. Think about what pain teaches us.
Don't do that.
Stop doing that. It tells you to stop doing it. So if you think about it, the people with CIPA, again, it's a long name. I don't remember what it's called.
Congenital insensitivity.
Yep. Congenital insensitivity. Congenital means congenital. Insensitivity to pain. These people can touch an oven and not feel it. It'd be like, what he said? So, these people can get in like bad accidents and they don't know what happens to their body. And I've never thought of that. Touch doesn't happen on purpose. I really have never thought about that before. It's interesting. Liz?
I said touch because with all the other senses, there's been like everyone's shown how you can live it like, I didn't know about, like, the disorder, but, like, I said, like, everyone else that, like, everyone that would, like, who's blind or deaf has, like, proven that they can find another way, like, with living, and just touch is so much harder.
Yeah, there's no really
Taste is literally the least.
I was just about to ask, what's the least important?
Taste.
I like taste.
Taste is really
You
good.
don't get nothing like this unless you like taste. I do. I'm drinking a cream soda right now because I haven't had sugar in like 3 hours. I found a way. All right, I like taste, but
Cats can't taste sweet things.
Like,
okay.
Cats.
That's why they're always so. Can I say the word that came in my head about cats? Bitchy. The first thing that came in my head.
Those are dogs.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like, I guess the second one, like, second least important, in my opinion, is like the smell. But the way that taste will remove the smell and like the one that I don't need is because if you can't really smell, that's like another way to do taste. Like, that's part of the tasting thing is like your sense of smell.
Yeah, that's
So
really important.
you let lose that, you don't some of your taste or all of it just by losing your smell.
But for those that have had a really, really bad cold, you can't really taste it. I definitely
It's so sad. My parents somehow managed to make it to my favorite food.
just make sure you're sick.
Plus,
Anyone else? That's it? You want to answer it?
I was gonna talk about the cat thing.
Well, then,
You described the cat as a word that is
permission to
derived.
swear. You have permission.
You described him as bitchy when bitch is
A female dog.
female dog.
All right, so now we're going to talk about sensation and perception. Sensation on the left, perception on the right.
But, like, imagine not being able to feel, like, picking up, like,
Oh, that'd be awful.
imagine like cutting the carrot and then you like you think
Anyone?
No. Oh no.
you just be like, oh gosh, I didn't know carrot.
Oh no, I'm leaking again.
I mean, the only thing that not having a sense of like touch would be like just good for pets. You know, like just doing something stupid.
I bet I get back on that wall and feel nothing.
I bet you can put my finger on something now.
Walking would be so
Like,
weird.
walk it off.
Why did you choose to lose that sense? I wanted to win a few bets. That,
I imagine not being able to feel
The best
anything. It would be like,
mutant
what
powers
is
to have.
well, especially imagine not being able to feel anything while you're in the dark.
all right, folks. So, sensation is how we take in information. Like sensory memory. It's the first initial step information enters your body. We have 5 senses. We have smell, touch, taste, and then you can hear it, or auditory and visual. Seeing. Are we pretty reliant on these 5 senses? Right, we are pretty reliant. We need them. We've always had. I mean, there's an evolutionary reason why we have senses. For instance, like hearing. We do talk about the fact, like, I like to reference the cavemen a lot during this. But imagine, and for those that know stuff about cavemen, is the early ones could not see well. They couldn't see more than like 10 feet up before they started evolving into having better vision. But they did have really good hearing. Why?
It balances it out.
The balance. The body does that, naturally does it. It balances. But also, if you're moving around and you can't see, we're talking in a time of saber-toothed tigers and shit. Right? Stuff is dangerous, and you can't see.
Is that why sounds are scarier than things?
Tends to be.
I was outside the other day.
Hold on. If Ian is the saber-toothed tiger, and I can't see, he took that as a compliment probably over there. If I can't see more than 10 feet, I feel like, you know, and then I'll see the big teeth, but then I'm already 10 feet away, and that thing is on way faster. But being able to hear is important. And there is a reason why we are more scared of sounds than things we see. Sounds are uncertain. It is the unknown. But we do need to hear them to assess danger. A lot of these senses are to assess the world around us. Is it going to kill me or not? So perception is the analysis of this information, how we perceive it. So this is our database for what we've taken in, and interprets whether or not that sound is dangerous, or whether it's harmless. Determines whether the big shiny teeth on the saber-tooth tiger is it dangerous or not. If it looks sharp to me, my uncle got eaten by one last week, might be dangerous. So think of when you're walking outside at night. Again, nighttime is important here. How does your body's interpretation of senses affect our emotions? Talk about that in your group. So if you hear a sound late at night and it's dark, does it change your emotions rather than it would be during the day? 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, like with
Like,
If you hear a sound,
There's, I guess,
if you hear a sound,
one that kind of like,
yeah.
Okay, folks, back up to the front. Want to focus back up to the front? Is it scarier when you hear things outside at night?
Oh,
Yeah.
No. You want to walk over there next time?
Yeah.
What's that?
I said no.
You said no, I think it is.
Well, you
Oh,
can't
you mean
see
like
it.
a tap on your window?
Anything, sound at night.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah,
Consensus? How come?
Because you don't
You can't see it.
You can't see it, it's dark. Our hearing, but in our vision. What else did we talk about here? Does it affect your emotions? Yes, Liz?
I kind of like brought up the point, like when it's gloomy outside, it all puts us like in a depressive mood.
There's seasonal affectiveness disorder, otherwise known as SAD. Tell me.
I feel like at night too, we're already on like high alert because it's this kind of scary sound stuff, I guess. And then like if you hear something like that or whatever, it makes something
Right. It can kind of throw you out of whack. So if you just think about the music you listen to, movies you watch, anything you've looked at, anything, darkness is usually never a good thing. But during the nighttime,
Oh, yeah.
it is a monster that's there to eat you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it because it's there. So darkness for ages has meant scary thing. It comes from our senses.
yeah, but now it's more of a time of being nice and alone and comfy.
It can be. You're sleeping in a nice comfy bed. So an example of how sensation and perception work. Sensation. You see that they're red.
What color do you see?
Version of red, I think. I think I see a version of it. But you can see that they're red. What else can you notice with your senses? If the apples were in here, what would you do? What else would you do?
I feel the conch on my
You can't really hear an apple, but you can hear someone crunch on it. You can't hear an apple up your ear and it's not like a magic conch. So you can touch it, you can get the texture. So that's sensation. Bringing in the information is sensation. Perception tells you this is apples. Because you know what apples are. Now what I see here is my version of it. What I'm seeing right here is different than what you're seeing. I'm treating the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is, we don't really know what these look like. No, isn't that torture? 22 people in here are like, yep, those look normal. And us two, we're like, okay. Well, it looks normal.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's what it is. Right? So we have issues in our perception, in our eyes. So sensation brings it in. Excuse me, we have issues with our sensation, our receptors. But perception relies on sensation. Okay, so information processing. There's top down and bottom up. Connor?
Well, I'm just kind of thinking, and I've kind of thought about it before in the past, like, how do we know that we're all seeing the same color? Red,
Oh, I thought about
regardless?
that too.
Like,
No,
like
no,
we're
no,
colorblind.
no.
Connor, did you find drugs at lunch?
I think you find out in ways.
No, keep going. Sorry.
Here's, but, I mean, if, like, 'cause we might all be seeing something slightly different than like, the one color, but we all just kind of see it as the color we see it.
Well, we do know that there are, so there you have, in your eyes you have rosin cones. They're all different people. All people have different cone sensitivity. So, for instance, there are some of you in the room that can see that just fine. There are some people.
To the light, but yeah.
There are some people in the room that will have trouble seeing that, just because we have different receptors in our eyes. Some people have really sensitive ones, some people don't.
That's like
So what you're saying, Connor, is probably 100% true. Is that the same red as it is for you as it is for Erica? Could be, and also might not be.
No,
But like,
I don't need that cursed thought in my head right now.
One thing I think about is like, what if what I see as red is also like what I see as blue? You say it's red, but like
It takes a minute to
That's
understand.
colorblind.
No,
I appreciate you're colorblind.
no, like you look at it, we both say red, we see the same thing, but like you're
that's
seeing
because
my
that's what we're
view.
taught.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
What we're
on
taught.
that.
Right, it's what we're taught. They're just a machine that teaches us. Okay.
Yeah.
Haley, go ahead.
My little sister just got braces,
Mhm.
and she's like, I got purple ones, and I'm like, those are blue.
Well, I do that all the time, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
You
red.
and I, man. We can't see the world.
Like
So,
when I
Eric?
got these teeth.
I feel like if we're all seeing different colors, what if all of our colors are actually, or all of our favorite colors are actually the same color?
Oh, don't play with that,
bro.
Okay.
You're
serious.
You know what I feel like? I feel like my brain could put in a pot of pouring water. Charlotte? Hold on.
No.
I can't hear you.
No, not this.
Oh, yeah.
The commerce.
Yeah, or anything.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna pull that up.
Oh.
I hated that
What
thing.
is this? Everyone's talking about color.
There was one for sound too, wasn't there? Thank you.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
this away.
Okay, so let's bring that up. Liz, last thing before we. Yeah.
So like, so I've had surgery done in both my eyes,
Okay.
and they've used lasers.
Mm-hmm.
So now my eyes are damaged because of that laser. Because you know how you're not supposed to stick lasers in your eyes
Correct.
when you're younger.
Generally known.
Well, so like I have an issue with red, like putting a yellow on that whiteboard. Or if I like look at it like this. Yeah, that stupid concussion screening test.
Where is it? Like this.
Yeah,
The yellow,
I can't see the yellow.
you can't see anything.
Nope.
So that's a blank view.
Yep.
Can I ask you to read the word?
Yeah.
Read that one.
Might be.
It is valid, but that was a struggle. That's tough. Okay, that's interesting.
And I also got like,
And that happened after your surgery?
yeah, so I had, this one was done 14 years ago, and
Okay.
this one was done 4 years ago.
Interesting. Okay, so we're going to get to processing because this is how we see everything. The first one's top down. And the big thing you need to know here is that we rely on past experiences and top down. We've seen something like this before. So it's easier to perceive it. Okay? We've seen something like this before, so it's easier to perceive it. Think about how many of you like to shop at Target? I'm forced to go to Target like once a week.
Well, God, that would be horrifying.
You pick your battles, man. Don't shake your head at me. You pick your battles. So I go to Target a lot, and I eventually started to like Target. There's Starbucks. I can overdose on coffee and get hyper and go press all the buttons in the children's toy aisle.
Yep.
So, anyways, have you noticed that you can pretty much walk into a Target whether it's Hudson, Redmond, Woodbury? I can just keep going, and they're all kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
They're relying on this. They don't want you to walk into a Target and be completely lost. Because
Where am I?
you might not come back.
Walmart does that.
Walmart does the same thing. Every store does.
Hudson Walmart though?
It's a little kooky.
Uh-huh.
They in the store to reorganize everything. Like Nelson's not like
How do you feel when it reorganizes?
it was uncomfortable. I knew where everything was, and then it was all different.
Even working there.
When the store reorganizes, we have to use bottom-up processing, which takes a longer period of time because it's raw stimulus. This is kind of the big thing here. Touch you right here, I'm gonna out. You have no prior experience with this. The one example I like to use, folks, I think I already told this story, but it works for this. My first day of high school, I had never been in that building besides the gym. And the high school in Bloomer is set up where, if this is the school, this is going to go great for the people listening to this. If this is the school, it is kind of set up like this. Here's the gym. And I had never seen anything else. Any tournament we had as kids was here, and they locked this down. You couldn't go anywhere else. There's also there's another part of the school that's over here, but they locked that down too. It's literally here's the gym, here's some tables that are right outside of the gym. I didn't see anything else in the school. When I first walked in there on my first day of school, I was nervous. I'd never seen anything in there before. It's all bottom-up processing. I'm building this from the bottom up. How do you start with the house? Do you start with the roof?
Foundation.
You build the foundation. That's how your senses work. If you've never seen anything before, it causes like a heightened sense of like maybe nervousness. But this processing also takes a while because again, you didn't have any prior experiences. So when I walked into the school, I knew where I was going. The only place I recognized was the gym. I could get around there pretty good. I knew where the locker rooms were. I knew how they were laid out. I knew what the cafeteria looked like. But I told you the story about what happened when I got dragged away. I don't think I told that to this class. So the first day, my freshman year, me and a buddy, he had a brother that was a senior, and one of his brother's good friends. When we walked in the door, they grabbed us and they dragged us to the other end of the school, and they left us there. I've never been in the school other than this part. So when they left me here, we had trouble finding our way back. I was like 25, 30 minutes late for my first block class because I wandered aimlessly trying to find it. Now, could I have went to freshman orientation? Yep. But I wanted to sit at home. Kind of like what you guys do from August 25th to 27th. I didn't want to go. So I kind of screwed myself there. But the big thing is, guys, top down, you've already seen it. So it goes quicker. Bottom up takes a while because you're using raw stimulus. Thumbs up if that makes sense. These are big concepts here. Liz.
So is that why, like, when you see 4 plus 4, that equals 8, because you know it equals 8, but when you see, like, something you've never seen in math before, you don't know how to do it?
Yes. You rely on prior experience. Prior experience does a whole lot for your brain. It helps you see better. It helps you see better.
How come in there they can make some people about how to do
Sometimes,
A lot.
maybe what you've seen is kind of built off of what you've done in the past. That you tap that. Sometimes. Sometimes you can just get lucky too. It truly can. There's variances to how we all act. Guys, we're going to go outside here in like 2 minutes. Okay?
something? Yes.
Okay. So basic principles. This is where I want to get. We're going to do an experiment on Weber's law tomorrow, and I'll get into the definition then. I tried the experiment a couple times and I screwed it up every time. So.
Like how you screw up that.
Madison, I don't need my failures thrown in my face, but yes.
Justy, ask Johnny about the time she thought she was going to have a 6 mile run and she did an 8 mile and asked her if I forgot about that.
You never will. All right, so there's some basic principles of sensation and perception. Very basic. There's the absolute threshold and difference threshold. These are important. You can tell by the pretty stuff. You can tell by the way it is. That's important.
I was more focused on the fact that you made a check mark than you crossed it over with the rest.
Another thing the difference threshold is called too, and you'll see this interchangeably, kind of like working memory with short-term memory, is the just noticeable difference threshold. It's another name for it. So don't be shocked if you see it. So the absolute threshold is the minimum amount of stimulation needed to detect a stimulus. It's the least amount of basil you can put in spaghetti to taste the basil. It's the least amount of sound you could make before I pick up on it. Okay? It's the least amount of something that you can sense. Now, difference thresholds when it comes to comparing. All right? So it's the amount of difference needed to detect that two stimuli are different. So, for instance, see this light? Remember this, okay? You can tell that's different, correct? Obviously, we're past the difference threshold. But for some, Is it the same amount of brightness?
No.
Or is it
No,
brighter?
it's
Definitely brighter. Not like
Dimmer.
Raise your hand if it's dimmer. You don't remember? We can go through it one more time. Raise your hand if it's brighter. Same? No one says the same? All right, we'll do it one more time. Here's the first one. The second one. Is the first one,
Something different, man.
is the first one brighter?
The one on that side only lights up the middle one. The one on the right
Right.
side lights up the top.
That one, this one is brighter. I can't change it. That one is brighter. So the noticeable difference is what it takes for you to notice that it changes brightness. And I will not flicker the lights on and off again. Got it.
So I'm gonna, I don't know, like with colorblind, would that be like a thing like different noticing the difference between people?
Yeah, that is a thing. That's what we have.
That's not you.
But it is though, because like, so who is it? Your sister? You said she got braces. She thought they were purple, but they're actually. That's me. I don't have red. Is hard for me to see, but my big difference comes if you hold up red and orange. They're the same color.
Yeah.
That's what I that's. It has a little bit of a different name. It's not necessarily like red green color blindness. It's a little bit different. I'm going to be done talking when we go outside for about 5 minutes. Okay. Go ahead. You take up your mask and be 6 feet apart. We'll come back in and finish this up. So things that matter is stimulus. Whether they tested it audibly or visually, was the radar blip bright enough to notice a difference? Was it loud enough to notice a difference? That matters. You need to make it fairly obvious for people. Especially in a high pressure situation when they're trying to determine if that was a sound for a flock of birds or a sound for a nuclear bomb, you screwed up a lot. A lot. But probably not in a bad way. Probably better than safe than sorry. But you don't want to let the bomb go by because now there's a couple Tweety birds flying by the radar. No. Environment, how much noise is in the room distracting you? This depends on the people. I watch people in a loud classroom read a book. I can't do that. So, and then the last thing is the person. Did the person want to be doing this? Are they motivated? Are they trained? So, we've taken what we learned here from the Cold War and we put it in a lot of non-military applications. So, think about, has anyone been to an airport?
Yeah.
When you walk through, like, TSA?
Yeah.
It's like this.
Oh.
Different things have different sounds. But we've applied it and made it easier for us to do.
You gotta look.
X-ray. X-ray uses this now. MRIs. They use some sort of signal detection application. Okay? Here's one of the Cold War era radars that they were using. This is cool, right? It's pretty cool. Did you hear that? He said badass. Okay. More principles. Yep, there is. And we'll talk about it. Got you guys right.
I wish you would put the ABCs up there, there too.
Yeah.
Instead of like
How
gold,
the dots.
Sure. You can do that. We'll be there. I'll ask you. You can do that. So there are quite a few concepts here. I'll go through them. There's a couple of videos for the change blindness and choice blindness that I'll talk less and show you something a little more interesting than my voice. So sensory adaptation, really, really simple, is the longer you feel stimulus, the less you start to feel it, the less compaction. So thinking about, kind of talked about it last year with the memory, but like you don't really feel your feet on the floor because they've been there. You might feel them now because they're attention to it, but you don't usually. You become more used to stimulus the more you experience it. Have any of you ever screwed around with one of those little like joke pens that you click,
Yeah.
where like it shocks you? Everyone's experienced the horror of doing that the first time, right? The gum one too.
Yeah.
If you have those pens, the first time you do it, you're shocked by it, right? But the more you do it, you can just kind of go.
Yeah.
You can kind of go through it. It's sensory adaptation. You become more used to unchanging stimulation. Selective attention is something that my dad has mastered. Absolutely has mastered. It's focusing conscious awareness on a particular event / sense to the exclusion of others. My dad has been always very good at hearing the TV over my mom's voice. He's always been very good at it. How many of you have a parent like that? Yeah. So your senses, choose what is important to focus on so that you're not overwhelmed. You make a choice. Which one's more important? Is it your wife talking to you? Or is it the kickoff in the football game? It's usually the kickoff. But also, it's usually a really bad thing. It was always when like it came to springtime and there was spring cleanup to do. That's when I'd see it at its best. Just putting in a full day's work of not hearing what you have to say. Full day. Change blindness, and we'll see some examples of this, is a perceptual phenomenon that occurs when a change in visual stimulus is introduced, it's shown, but you don't pick up on it. All right? Last week, did you guys notice? I wish I had it. I started class in a gray shirt and switched to a yellow shirt.
That's not right.
Thursday.
You really think I paid attention?
Huh? You noticed? One person. I taught you guys for about 15 minutes, and it wasn't really. I don't remember what we did that day. I think you had you guys working on your intelligence labs. You guys were kind of all on your Chromebooks. And
I don't remember.
I came down in a yellow shirt. I didn't say anything. No one said anything. You guys have no idea.
You should change from shorts to their pants to shorts.
Well, no, I can't do anything now.
My friend didn't notice until the end of the day.
You might look for it now, but I did that last night. You changed.
That's what happens when like a teacher wears glasses and then they come up with contacts and like,
Yeah.
were they wearing glasses?
So you are introduced to the change, but you don't notice it. Change deafness, obviously, it's kind of the same thing as change blindness, but with hearing it. All right? Choice blindness, we're kind of blind to the choices that we make. There's an experiment that explains that better. And then inattentional blindness is the failure to notice something going on around you because they're focused on something else. Kind of. These two are very similar. So it's failure to notice a fully visible yet unexpected object because attention was engaged on another task. There's a really famous Psych test for this that I bet you've all seen. I don't think I have it pulled up because it's really very obvious, but I got another example. So we're going to watch some video examples of this. We're going to start with
We done it.
inattentional blindness.
Oh, you skipped it.
Look out for cyclists. Ready?
It's the bear.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the glass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's stones below stairs. I was lighting my petunias in the potting shed. Constable, arrest Lady Smythe. How did you know, madam? As any horticulturist will tell you, one does not plant petunias until May is out. Take her away.
Where did you spend most of your time focusing?
Very fucking time.
Where did you spend most of your time? Probably on the story, right? Yeah.
It's just a matter of observation. The real question is, how observant were you?
Hey, the bear.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs. But I was planting my petunias in the rocking chair. Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
The reason this is an advertisement for motorcycles. If you don't notice a change in your environment, it can be deadly. Think about that. They changed that thing 21 times right in front of your eyes. And you notice, how many of you noticed at least one?
I realized the bear saw it pushing.
Right, but then the camera sweeps back by it, and you still don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, the flowers seem a bit off. But
That's why it's the line is not something tight.
Yeah, can we watch
Sure,
it?
you want to rewatch it?
yeah,
That's only been around.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs. I was planting my petunias in the rocking chair. Constable, arrest Lady Smythe. How did you know, madam, as any horticulturist will tell you, one does not plant petunias until May is out.
The first time I did this, I only noticed one. That it went from a bear to a knife. And it's really obvious. Right? So that's inattentional blindness.
Oh,
How many of you noticed it went from a bear, like a big stuffed bear, to like a knife?
I thought there was a guy in the night suit, but other than that, I didn't really.
I saw it was a night, I just forgot it was a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another point too. You forgot it wasn't important information.
In the red flowers that they changed, that I wanted to funny was, but when they changed it, it was like the red ones first, and then as they pointed the camera around, when it's like using on the detective, it was the other plant already. So
Information's only important when you pay attention to it. That's where your brain's like notice that. If you don't, it doesn't. So this is choice blindness now.
These men have discovered that sometimes your brain appears to conspire against you, and no amount of scribbling can solve that. Peter Johansson is forcing people to make decisions. It's a simple enough task for most people, and in fact, it isn't the real point of the experiment.
Why did you prefer that call? Higher keypoints, slightly better hair, not much cleaner.
Peter Johansson and Lars Hall have devised an experiment which calls into question many of our assumptions about how we make most of our everyday decisions.
We're interested to see what kind of detail the representations behind people's decisions and what kind of insight they have about those decisions. What do you guys choose this one?
I think it would be something with a very interesting person.
They're trying to pick out who's more attractive right now. They're going to see what they do.
This is all quite boring until you look at the experiment from a different perspective.
We added a twist, a card trick, so that sometimes they choose one face but end up with the other one.
Watch carefully. The volunteer chooses the card on the left, but Peter swaps the card and presents the photo of the scene on the...
So the card he's holding up to both people, there's two of them. The first card he's showing everyone is black. So then he puts the cards on and slides it, and there's a card behind the black card. So he slides them a totally different card that's red and pulls the black one. Okay, that's how they get a new picture.
Oh, that's so stupid.
Okay, I don't know if it's probably hard to see because it might be it's not the best quality video. If I can get this out of the way, I can go back a few seconds here. You might be able to see him do it. Watch his wrist. He'll pull the black card back.
The volunteer chooses the card on the left, but Petter swaps the card
Oh, yeah.
and presents the photo that is seen on the right and was actually.
And the card that's behind it is the opposite person.
Right.
So he chooses the person on the left,
Which is the bottom one.
which was the bottom one, and he receives this one. Now listen.
Rejected.
It is a card trick, but it's a cheap card trick. Based on something that the magicians call black on black. So for each card, there's a hidden card behind it, which is actually the opposite one. Where we slide the other card over, the black card is hidden. And then Petter just uses his arm to slide it down into his lap.
I mean, it's two parts that's interesting here. First, the fact that they don't notice when you switch the pictures. It's interesting in itself, and it's quite surprising. And the second part is, of course, the verbal reports they give. They actually motivate choices they didn't make.
80% of the people we tested had absolutely no idea that a switch had been made.
This will disrupt me.
He picked her. The card he was given was this one. He picked this person to be more attractive. And they gave him this card, and now he's describing it.
Rescue shot. Since I'm a photographer, I like the way the celebrity looks.
It's a puzzling phenomenon. Lars and Petter think that it can only be understood by looking at our fundamental relationship with our surroundings.
We rely upon the world. The world is dependable. So if you reach for your car keys, you don't end up with the armadillo in your lap. Or something like that.
Or not.
Explain why we do this.
It might also be that we simply can't countenance our decisions being wrong. Once we've made up our minds, there's far too much invested to back pen. We simply post-rationalize and pretend that it was a great choice all along.
So there's two sides to what they were talking about there. The one side is maybe we just don't notice because we can't hang on to that money. We just can't. And you kind of saw it, like last week, again, I wore a gray shirt the first one, came out in yellow. One person noticed it. Maybe you just never noticed it at all. Okay? We all last week. Right after lunch. Another thing too is that this is more of a social psyche, not a sensation of perception, but it's that we make the choice, we look at it, and even unconsciously, we just start justifying it, although it's wrong. We immediately don't want to be wrong. It's kind of that's more of a social psych look at this sensation perception, but it's you're blind to your choices, is the idea. And the last one here is selective attention. If you've seen this experiment before, say
Coconuts are out.
no.
Good to see you. Hey, what's with the what do you mean? Coconuts are out. It's focus.
If you've seen this, say nothing.
Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count?
17?
I feel like 15.
15? That's the numbers? Okay. That's it. Sign up.
The correct answer.
Hey, what else do you want?
If I click that you guys
see the gorilla.
Wait, what?
Raise your hand if you didn't see a gorilla. Did not see it. Okay, watch it again. That's good. It worked on some of you. How many of you have seen this video before?
I think I have. When I see it,
That happened. I
there's
did.
one right there.
Like, he stood in the middle for that long.
You're tapping. No.
No.
I don't know.
I saw it.
There's no way that thing was in there. You don't believe me? I don't. There's no way that's a cat. Okay, I got 15. I got
Here it is. Yep, wait for it. Look at what happens. It's popping.
Bro, what the actual heck? I don't even
Okay. Hold on, guys. There's actually another video working with this too.
The correct answer is 15
There's another one too. That's a.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct.
The door study. This video shows a participant from a 1998 study by Daniel Simons and Daniel Levin. Watch what happens as the unsuspecting pedestrian provides directions.
So you gotta think about this.
The young man on the left is one of the experimenters. He has approached the white-haired man and asked for directions. Watch closely as two people carrying a door pass between them, and the first experimenter is replaced by someone else.
Oh.
Like many of the people in this study, the pedestrian was entirely unaware that he was talking to a different person.
I don't look good.
Yeah, yellow's
Trying is different than actually.
Approximately 50% of the people approached in this study
There's
didn't
many
notice
other
that the
videos.
person they were talking to was replaced by someone else.
That is where, just want to see where we're at here. That is where we're going to leave. Well, yeah, that's where we're going to leave.